all these problems right here, you're going to use grouping except for this one right here. This one, you can factor without grouping. This one you can pretty much do in your head almost. What multiplies to negative 24 but then adds to give me negative 5? Okay, see if you can do that little multiplication thing in your head, then you know that this is x minus 8 and x plus 3. That's how you factor that. Because negative 8 times 3 gives me negative 24, and then when you add them, you get negative 5. So you know that your two answers are 8 and negative 3. Okay, I just did the easiest one for you. If you want to practice that, erase it, and don't look at it, and then try to do it tonight, okay? All right. Now, what about all these ones? All these ones, you're going to use grouping in some way. Now, I don't like doing the parenthesis thing. I like using the box better. But you can do the parenthesis thing. Just look back at the examples. It shows you how. So this one right here only has 3 terms. Mr. Patey, it only has 3 terms. Can't I just do it the same way? No, you can't. You know why? There's a 3 right here in front of the x squared. This one has a 1. So if there's a number in front of the x squared, then that means you're going to have to do it just slightly different. You're going to have to write it with 4 terms. And so what we got to do is we got to split up this 5. We're going to split this 5 up so that there's 4 terms. How do we do that? You go like this. 3 times negative 2 is what? Negative 6. So I have negative 6, and on the bottom I have a positive 5. Right? Is it positive? Okay, it's positive. All right. So what multiplies to give me negative 6? Adds to give me positive 5. 6 and negative 1. So now I'm going to change this 5x to say 6x minus 1x. That's 5x, right? Okay, and then I'm going to put this guy on there, 3x squared, and I'll put a plus sign, and then a minus 2 at the end. Okay, do I have 4 terms now? Yeah, I have 4 terms now. Now, this one's cool because it already has 4 terms for you. All right, so now to finish factoring this, what you're going to do, so I like to use the box. In order to do this, we got to draw a box that has 4 squares inside of it, so we can put all 4 terms in there. We're going to have 3x squared, and then 6x, and then negative 1x, and then negative 2. After you do that, your goal is to find the numbers on the outside. So I'm going to look at these first 2 numbers right here in this column and see what I can divide both of those numbers by. What can I divide 3x squared by and negative 1x by? I can divide them both by x, and so that's what goes on the outside. What can I divide both of these by? 2. I wouldn't say negative because they're not both negative. Only when they're both negative do you do that. What can I take out of both of these? 3. I can take a 3 out and an x. And then what can I take out of both of these? Oop, they're both negative. So you want to take a negative out of both of them. And yeah, you can only divide these by a 1. And so this right here factors to look like this. X plus 2, 3x minus 1. Now, in order to find the zeros of each of these, this one you just can look at, and you get x equals negative 2. This one, you can set it equal to 0 to help yourself out. You go 3x minus 1. Some of you guys can do this in your head. You go plus 1, and then you get 3x equals 1. And then how would you get the x alone there? Divide by 3, divide by 3. There you have it. It is 1/3. So those are the 2 solutions for that one. Some of these you might be able to factor even more after you get these 2 factors. Just pay attention to that. You might have a difference of squares in there, and then you can factor it again to get all your factors and then find your zeros. Alright, now I'm going to do one more. I'm going to do this F right here. I'm warning you. I'm going to do it, all the work, right in front of you. So if you want to practice this first, see if you get it before I do it, then you should stop the video and try it on your own first. Alright, now we have 4 terms, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so I made a box with 4 boxes. So 6x to the 3rd, 8x squared, 15x, and 20x. I think it's important that you go in order, like you go this one, then this one, then this one, and this one, in descending order, like by the exponents. That's how I know it's descending. And then you look at each column, then each row, and try to take out the greatest common factor in each of them. So if I look at this one, I can take out a 3. A 3 divides 6, and a 3 divides 15. And I could take an x out of both of those as well. And then I look at the next column. In this column I could take out a 4. A 4 would be the highest number I divide the 8 by, and the 20. Then if I look at this, the highest number I can divide the 6 and 8 by is 2, and the highest number I can divide the x to the third and the x squared by is x squared. Finally, the last one, I can divide each of those by 5, and that's it. So my answer, or the two factors that I get from my box, are 3x plus 4 times 2x squared plus 5. And now, okay, so this is the factored form. This is the factored form of this standard form polynomial. Look, you always got to check each of these factors to make sure they're completely factored. And it looks like it is completely factored. I can't take anything out of that one or that one. Now to find the zeros of this, I would have to go 3x plus 4 and set it equal to 0, then solve it. When you solve it, you subtract 4 from both sides, then you get 3x equals negative 4, then you divide by 3, so you get x equals negative 4 over 3. And that's one of the zeros. And then for the other factor, we just did this factor, now let's do this one. We would say 2x squared plus 5 equals 0. Subtract 5 from both sides, we get 2x squared equals negative 5. And then we divide both sides by 2, we get x squared equals negative 5 over 2. And then if we want to get the x alone right here, we're going to have to square root it. Now, if you remember square roots, now we have a problem. You can see it. If you square root 25, that's cool, it's 5. If you square root negative 25, that's no solution. There's nothing that you can square root. You can't square root a negative to get an answer. So because there's a negative there, we cannot square root both sides, and so we did not get a 0 from this factor. This is the only answer here. We only have one solution for this polynomial, 1, 0. It's that. Now it's even more interesting if you go to graph this. It's interesting to see what happens at negative 5 over 2. Actually, I don't think it's exactly at negative 5 over 2, but anyways, if you try to square root a negative, that just means you get no 0 from that. Oh, and if you ever square root inside of an equation, make sure you always put plus or minus in front of the square root sign. We didn't do it here because you can't square root a negative.